So I work as the therapist end of things, and so I work with like a probation officer, a guardian ad litem, which is like a court-appointed legal representative to kind of like work out for the child, look out for the child's rights.
Right.
And then there's a caseworker, usually family, hopefully is involved, not always, but usually there's some family involvement. And so kind of walk them through treatment takes like 1.5 to 2 years. A lot of different like components to it. Sometimes they have to register as sexual offenders, and certainly you don't want to have to do that for the rest of your life. And so they have opportunities if they do the treatment right and they, maintain safe boundaries, then they can successfully petition the court not to have to register. It doesn't surprise me that some of them, if you've had a tough life, you don't necessarily, I can't wait to like go study hard and get a good job so I can get out of that. A lot of them are just frustrated and upset about what's happened to them in life so far. So it's tough for them to like think, oh, like I know how to get, back on track. Like let me just go to school every day and study really hard, so then I don't have to be, struggling, and I'll be nice to people because I'll have money, whatever. I mean, I'd love to think that the culture is starting to look more at mental health as like, this is a good thing. I love when people come to therapy and they're like, look, my marriage isn't falling apart, but we have some arguments and we're just trying to figure out how we can grow better and grow closer together. I'm like, that's great. And I think it is something that on like the east, west coast major cities, that it's much more commonplace for people to like, oh, part of my self-care is like, I go talk to a therapist. Again, I hope that people start to look at mental health as like, it's a good thing. We all kind of struggle at times. Like, it's not a bad thing to go and talk to somebody. I don't know. I, again, like to think that's better, but it's like your philosophers have been around for centuries, Like logic and theories, those have been out for a long time. Psychology's somewhat new, but they've still been around for a while, and so I don't know. Like, it's exciting to think about where the world's gonna be.
I've seen cases where I think medication was detrimental. I think with children in particular, we tend to over-medicate children, especially with the diagnosis of ADD or ADHD.
Right.
I've seen children as young as 2 years of age put on a pretty significant amount of medication, and I frankly think that's horrible. Their brains aren't even fully developed, and to start interfering with the brain, a lot of times the brain itself has the ability to start manufacturing the types of enzymes and chemical things that we need for balance, given its opportunity to do so. When we start giving children massive amounts of intervention, medical drugs, it interferes with the brain's natural ability to heal, and it throws everything off in the system. And I have seen in schools and daycare centers even children walking around literally as little just almost vacant and not being able to interact or have the ability to play or respond or even be in touch with their own emotions because they're so drugged up. And I think that we need to be careful not to do that.
Right.
I think there are times when medication really is important and it can be used as a hurdle, and there are some very specific mental health, such as schizophrenia and bipolar, that need medication, and they may need lifelong medication, but they may also be helped through nutritional efforts and through other types. They've actually shown that physical movement, so regular exercise for bipolar in particular, has been shown to be able to help regulate. So with nutritional supplements and the ability to balance the internal system, and with exercise and even sunshine, because it has also been shown that seasonal affective disorder, which a lot of people are susceptible to after a long winter and not a lot of sunshine, affects bipolars and schizophrenias much more than it does the rest of us, although a lot of people are affected by it. So they've also shown that being out in the sunshine, so outdoor exercise and nutritional stuff can help those conditions. Now, it may not eliminate the need for them to take medications, but it may lessen the amount of medication they have to take, which then that lessens the chemical impact onto the body. So psychotropic medications are responsible for a lot of weight gain, which also inhibits people from other activities. So I think we just need to balance. I think we need to look at people as individuals and look at what the individual person, and sometimes that takes a little work to find out, and we don't always want to do the work, as Kathleen said. We want to give me a fast pill, I want to be better. And that tends to be our sort of Western training and culture.
I don't want to say other people are just kind of like prescribing medication saying good luck out there. I mean, I certainly don't think that's what's going on, but sometimes it just depends on how involved people are with the other supports in their life, the other professionals in their life, their own personal approach about what they're trying to do in therapy. Some of them are saying, or maybe believe, you need to take this medication. It's the most important thing that you're going to be doing right now. Other people say, like, well, is it helping? Is it not helping? And again, I'm not the psychiatrist, so I'm never going to tell anybody, like, don't take your medication. But if someone comes to me and they say, it's really not working, then, I'll say, well, maybe you should go talk to your psychiatrist and say, hey, this isn't working, and explain to them. I've certainly found many clients who benefit from, like, medication. I also like the idea, and they're always, in some type of therapy while they're on medication, or most of the time. So to me, it's like an ongoing kind of discussion to have with somebody, because medications are going to affect people all kinds of different ways, and, at the end of the day, as you may have seen on the website, I come from more empowering choice, hence my, own LLC name is Empowering Choices Therapy, is that, I want people to, kind of look at who they are, who they want to be. Sometimes it makes sense that, yes, this medication helps me. Sometimes it's you know what, it's really not helping me.
Right.
And then as you go back to, the psychiatrist and say, hey, this isn't really working for me, do we look at decreasing the dose, look at something different, increasing it? But to me, it's mental health is an ongoing process. Yeah. I mean, I think a big part of it is people willing to kind of go in and do the work and want to try to make changes. It's I talk to people all the time that you can come in and we can talk about things that may make sense for you to try to look at differently or try strategies, coping tools, whatever. But unless you go practice this stuff, unless it becomes a part of you, there's not a whole heck of a lot of things that are going to be different in your life.
Yeah, I've seen people, with severe conditions. I mean, such as schizophrenia and other conditions, bipolar conditions that are able to definitely be helped by being on medication. So I certainly don't rule out the use of medications. It's just it's really overdone.
Sure, I mean, some of the different kinds of modalities, like your art therapy, music therapy, it's awesome stuff, especially when you're fitting with a good a good client that's really interested in art and or music. I don't know if that necessarily is a requirement. I think there's a lot of people that benefit for those types of treatments when they don't even like art or music.
Right, yeah.
But they still get, they still find it very therapeutic.
Yeah.
And even some of the the other holistic stuff, and I think I would say Colorado in general is a little bit more accepting of a lot of different kind of interventions, which is really cool, like the equine therapy and stuff like that, where people are working with horses and other kinds of animals and stuff.
I didn't know that.
It's a very cool and really kind of can be really effective. I mean, I went to a training about gang members working with horses and stuff, and they're the biggest, toughest guys in the world, but you put them next to this ginormous horse, and all of a sudden they're scared, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to see people when they really do like make
They want
progress
to.
in their life, yeah, and are motivated, you know.
I think holistic is becoming sort of almost a buzzword, and certainly in the sort of circle that I am familiar, there are more and more people looking for and requesting sort of there are a number of different names, but body-centered psychotherapy is one. More holistic approach, I think, is becoming much more acceptable, and people are actually looking for it because, as Kathleen said, talk therapy is not always effective. I think talk therapy has its place, and it can be very effective for somebody who's already high functioning and has done some work, but for a lot of people who aren't maybe as aware or who know that they've had some issues and it's locked in their body, it becomes locked on a cellular level.
Right.
And it's been there for so long, it's hard to unlock. And so experiential forms of therapy that reach in to unlock those doors and to change those neural pathways are much more effective, I think.
Right.
And I think they're becoming much more acceptable. It used to be considered sort of like, ooh, way out there. And,
Right.
But it's what's happened is that it's proven to be effective, and people who did not get better with conventional talk therapy methods have gotten better with experiential methods. And as more people speak out and say, oh my God, this has been very effective, this has helped me, then it becomes more and more effective. And there's so many different forms of treatment that out there that people used to consider bizarre, but which again have been proven effective, like acupuncture, for example.
Right.
I can remember 20 years ago when if you went to an acupuncturist, people were thinking you were really weird, and yet I know probably 10 or 15 people now who say that traditional medicine didn't help them, but their acupuncturist walks on water
I
practically.
actually have a colleague who I asked to join us, and she was unable to, who did practice back in New York City as an analyst, trained in analytic psychology, and did see people, who wanted to come in for analysis. And then she moved here to Colorado and realized that she probably couldn't, get a lot of people to lay on the couch, shall we say,
Right.
a couple of times a week. And so she went for training in hypnotherapy so that she would have another skill in her toolbox to bring clients in. So she doesn't do as much analysis here in Colorado as she did in New York City.
Right.
So yes, there is that geographical difference. I think it is changing because the literature now is demonstrating that talk therapy alone is not enough.
Right.
And a well-known therapist named Ruth Napperstack, who is trained as a licensed clinical social worker, will even say that. And she's, like I say,
Right.
extremely well known, and that's what she was trained in. But she's the one who came up with all the recordings of guided imagery that she has done on various topics, and they're used actually wide scale, not only in this country but internationally as well, and in hospitals. Talk therapy is not enough. We need to really get into the body.
Right.
That's where change happens. It happens, really through our emotional area. We need to get into the more primitive part of the brain, which is the limbic system, the amygdala, and that's where change occurs. It does not change in our executive functioning portion of the brain.